Riots rage on in Portland. A D.C. mask mandate that exempts lawmakers. The New York Times has some thoughts on nice white parents. Cuomo's war on chicken wings. And Pompeo says China's free ride is over. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. It is Friday in the end of July, and oh my gosh, the election's going to be here very soon. The summer is going to be over soon. It certainly doesn't feel like a summer. We all know that much. It has felt like we're living in some alternative universe. Still haven't gotten that margarita out on the street with producer Mark, but we're working on it. You know, first the pandemic has to stop, or the pandemic panic as well has to go away. Then these things become a lot easier. We have much to discuss today. I wanted to start, if I could, with the Fauci. Dr. Fauci. You know, he's become a bit of a celebrity. He's become kind of a big deal. You know, he's not saying he's too big a deal, but, you know, I mean, is he? Could you argue that he's saving the entire human race? Could you argue that he's the most important person on planet Earth? If you're a lib who believes all the propaganda, you probably could argue those things. But he threw a pitch last night from the mound to open up, what was it, Bruce Mark, the Nats game? And
yes, the first game of the MLB season.
There we go, first game of the MLB season. And everyone jumped on the joke right away because it was about as accurate as his predictions about the pandemic from the beginning have been. He kind of managed to throw it sideways, which I think was a surprise to people. I don't even know he could really do that. But, you know, it was like if you've ever played golf, which I've only done a couple of times, I somehow managed to slice it so that I almost hit the person standing next to me in line at the driving range. That's kind of the way Fauci threw the pitch. So anyway, that's the Fauci. No big whoop on that. And then you've also got, now I'm sounding like Fauci all the time. I'm like, you've also got the RNC convention in Jacksonville has been shut down. I mean, they're not going to do it. Canceled. That's the word I was looking for. They're not going to do the RNC convention in Jacksonville. I'm mixed emotions on this one. I feel like they're giving in to the panic again. But I also understand that it's become so entrenched in the minds of many, many millions of Americans that if only we hide from this thing, everything will get better. That the political price you pay for trying to stand up and say enough is enough, let's go back to living our lives, the political price may be too high. So being right when it comes to COVID-19, being right when it comes to the Wuhan coronavirus, which we don't really call it that anymore. I guess we gave up fighting over the name. Trump does call it the China virus, but which always upsets the Democrats. They don't like that. They don't like that anybody would ever say China virus. China. But here we are, understanding that the election is going to happen pretty soon, and we're in a very, very different campaign season than we could have ever anticipated, where there really aren't campaigns happening. I mean, they're not doing rallies. People keep asking me, do you think there'll be a debate? I think there'll be one debate. I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker either way, unless Joe Biden, you know, falls asleep in his applesauce up at the podium. I mean, if that happens, then you probably have a bit of a look. There are people who would vote for Joe Biden, and I mean this. There are people who would vote for Joe Biden, even if it became obvious that he was medically, you know, incapacitated from a cognitive ability standpoint. They would vote. They would vote for him anyway. They wouldn't care. The whole idea would be, well, then his vice president just takes over. So people who are saying, oh, just wait until the debates. Yeah, you're fighting over that 2 to 3% of independents and swing voters. And I know base turnout can also matter in these states a lot too. But really, if it's going to come down to swing voters in the key states, it's a small slice of the pie, my friends. And whether they're going to change their minds about Biden in a debate performance or not very much remains to be seen. I only think there'll be one debate. I don't even know what the latest talking points are from both parties on this one. But I can't imagine it's going to be much more than that. The best advertisement for the Trump presidency right now is what's going on in cities like Portland, what's going on in American cities across the board, where you have Democrat governance on display failing. And beyond that, very specific policies and ideas that Democrats have adopted blowing back on normal people and showing that at the heart of the Democrat Party, there's a mob mentality. There's a lack of respect for rules that are universally applicable, also known as principles. There's a lack of respect for rule of law. And what they're doing is madness. It's absolutely madness. Portland had its, I don't know, 50, it's almost 60 days now of nightly protests downtown. Almost 60 days of this insanity. And they had a moment where they were singing. And this was really straight out of a cult. This was really straight out of some kind of religious movement. When I saw this, I almost couldn't believe it. But you had about 2,000 protesters. So remember, this isn't one or two bad apples, or this isn't, a handful of crazy people. This is the Democrat base. They're nuts. They're nuts. And they gather together and they say absurd things and they lie and they chant and they scream and they hate cops and they hate Trump. And that's all they know. Trump really, for the left, they view him because he has this alpha male, old school mentality about things like right and wrong, and people should be held accountable, and everyone should be expected to behave and to obey the law, even if they think they have a really important political message. They view that as fascism. That's what you've learned. They have no real idea of what fascism would be. And that's even more interesting because what they want to impose on all of us increasingly sounds like, or would look like fascism, would be fascism. Here is Portland last night. They're singing a lullaby. Let's see if you can make out the words. Play clip 3.
Sing it with me. Hands up, please don't shoot 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 me.
Hands up, please don't shoot me, as a lullaby from a lullaby tune. These people are sick in the head. First of all, hands up, don't shoot. We all know what that is a reference to. Mike Brown, who attacked a cop and was killed, and it was justified. That is according to the Obama Department of Justice. That is according to multiple black eyewitnesses to the event. They don't care. They don't care. It's too emotionally powerful. People would rather believe the lie. So they still say, hands up, don't shoot, as if that is what happened. They're all just propagating a lie. It's a myth. And now they're singing a lullaby to it, which really brings in this bizarre additional layer of, what are they worried that cops are going to shoot children now? What are they suggesting? What a strange and morally bankrupt move. Thousands of people singing hands up, please don't shoot me to a lullaby. I sit here and say, if we had honest journalists and an honest press, they would be tearing this whole thing apart as completely counterproductive and really just all like playing revolutionary. It's really just all going through the motions. At the end of the day, they're still going to want a government there to provide them with, the universities where nobody has to actually do any homework, but you get a degree. And, the government's going to send you a check when you're an unemployed PhD student. And, they still want all of that. They still want their socialism. So they want a state in place. They're not really anarchists. That's all just posturing. And ultimately, the most important thing is that they get to show up and feel important and powerful and express resentment. So much of what is behind this movement, BLM, Antifa, the statue toppling, there's just people out there who have built up this massive reservoir of resentment. And that's right. I'm going to play, mass psychologist right now. It's resentment that comes from people who didn't have enough of a moral grounding at home with the family. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Who feel like they've suffered because the state didn't step in enough and make up for the failings of the family. Who don't ever want to be told that their decisions or that their personal or professional, not measuring up is on them, right? That's why you have these, white liberal women who are like 25 screaming in the face of cops, because they're finding out that the things that they've been told that will make them happy, the things that watching MSNBC and reading the New York Times that have told them will make them happy, don't believe in God, don't build a family isn't important, gender isn't real, have sex with as many people as you want, as often as you want, everywhere and anywhere, and don't even think twice about it. These things that are just through a fire hose blasted out onto our culture all the time have real effect. And people have made these decisions. People have now seen, once you get to be in your late 20s and early 30s, you start to realize life choices matter. And your philosophy about how you live your life matters. And you can either self-correct if there are some deficiencies, try to make yourself better, understand that humility is a process of growth, right? That once you will embrace humility and understand that you're not as amazing or perfect or wonderful as perhaps you thought you were, or in other cases for people who have to deal with just crippling insecurity, to know that that's also deeply destructive and that they should allow themselves to be kinder to themselves. There's all of, and this is why you need family structure, relationship with the community, yes, religious belief. I know people like to just mock and laugh at that these days. At least for the philosophy and the community that it provides, even if somebody's not a pure and true believer. No, these days our sense of community is online politics. Get people, be woke, cancel culture. Yeah. That's what motivates a large portion of our country day in and day out. That's what they think is really important. This fight for justice that they're all a part of, by saying horrible things to people. The stuff that I see, when the president, and it's not like a humble brag or something. You all know he retweeted me 8 times in a row. Just put aside that, that's pretty cool. I appreciate when the president does that. But he's got 80 million followers. So when the president's 80 million person Twitter feed is Buck Sexton for 8 tweets in a row, pretty much, you get a lot of crazies coming out, and these people are so emotionally and psychologically damaged. I mean that. They're deranged. The stuff that they say and the threats and just the bile and the evil, the tame stuff is, you don't care about dead people from COVID-19. Yeah, I do. I know people who have died from COVID-19. Of course I get, but why would someone want to believe that about their fellow human being, about their fellow American? Because that's much easier. That self-righteousness feels much more fulfilling to people who are vapid, who are empty, who don't really have much to contribute to the society around them. So what do? They look for excuses and they look for belonging. They look for purpose. And that's what you see with thousands and thousands of people gathering together in cities all across the country who are all libs, who are all Democrats, embracing lies, believing grotesque exaggerations, abandoning social distancing, right? So we all know that's all a big fraud. Oh, no, this is fine. Where's the media shaming them? I saw the videos. A lot of them have masks totally down, very close quarters. I always say outside is not a big risk from COVID. I mean being normal outside. I wouldn't go outside and stand in a group of 100 people shouting and spraying virus into the air with whoever's infected. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I think you probably can get infected that way. But it's never about the truth, you see. Because the truth is painful, and libs find all these different ways to avoid it, to push it aside. The truth about their own individual decisions, about who they are, That's why they latch on to these movements. That's how you have all these adults singing lullabies about hands up, please don't shoot me. They're singing a lullaby in a grotesque fashion. I mean, it's just bizarre what they're doing about a lie. No one's trying to shoot them. And the only cops that are around them when they're doing all this stuff are there to protect basic law and order, including people who just want to go about their lives and aren't deranged leftists. You know, we're seeing a lot of what you'd have to understand as mass mental illness on the left, and it's the combination of the stress of the lockdown with the anti-Trump derangement that Trump is a fascist and he's destroying the country and he's a Klansman, he's an evil racist, he's a neo-Nazi. People who already believe that, you add the stress of this lockdown and the prospect of possibly 4 more years of Trump, they can't handle it. So they sing idiotic nursery rhymes and look like a bunch of fools while they destroy and ruin and pretend that they're making something better. As I have been telling you, Black Lives Matter, all of these leftist movements out there right now that are mobilized, they have made everything worse for everyone, paradoxically, including themselves. I can't believe we're being evicted from our home that we didn't even sell. That's what Deborah said when she realized that she was the victim of home title fraud, which is a crime that can actually cost you your home. You see, the only people that I trust to protect you from this are at Home Title Lock. Here's how this whole thing works. Title fraud is not covered by insurance or identity theft services. Your home's legal title is online where cyber thieves find it and then forge your signature saying you sold your home to them. In Deborah's case, she didn't know she was a victim until the eviction notice arrived. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. If tampering's detected, they instantly mobilize to stop it. So go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're a victim and don't know it. Use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. That's code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com.
The use of stormtroopers under the guise of law and order is a tactic that is not appropriate to our country in any way.
It is so un-American what has happened. It is so in keeping with third world countries and dictatorships. You haul somebody off the streets, don't tell them who you are, why you're doing it, etc. It's also unconstitutional.
Pelosi, Schumer, total frauds. Disgusting, disgraceful, unethical people. Power-hungry maniacs. Not even ideologues, just the worst kinds of politician. Give the mob whatever it wants as long as they vote for you and you get to be powerful and rich and live your life as you see fit. That's really the Democrat model, right? Keep people in a state of rage and dependency. And then at the very top of the pyramid of Democrat rule, you have people that are always going to talk about how it's all you have to do is vote for those Democrats and they'll make things better. This is the great lie at the heart of the Democrat Party. But Pelosi and Schumer here have not a word to say about the attack on federal courthouses, about the attack on United States federal law enforcement officers. I mean, Pelosi seems to think if you work for DHS or FBI or you name it, U.S. Marshals, you're a stormtrooper. That's what she's saying. Reckless, brainless. And the media just goes along with this. Not a word about the destruction and the riots. These are riots. They're not protests. It is rioting that is going on. Pelosi and Schumer are fine with it, though. People are abject frauds.
I don't want to get people too nervous here. But we have a president who really does not believe in democracy. This is a president who is trying to suppress the vote. This is a president who has contempt for Congress, ignores what Congress does. This is a president who does not respect a free press in America, the First Amendment. He thinks the media is an enemy of the people. And now what this president is saying is, I don't care what mayors say. I don't care what governors say. I am the president. I will send federal troops or federal agents any place in this country. That is, Andrea, what a police state is about. That is what a movement toward authoritarianism is about.
Bernie Sanders is a complete demagogue. I mean, this guy has just been saying the same crap for decades. Thank God he's never going to be president, so at least we can, we dodged that one. But here he is, not a word about the violence that these protests, riots, even I fall into the trap sometimes, that these riots are engaging in. They don't even feel the need. I mean, the Democrats really think that they can just get away with anything. They don't even feel the need to mention that there is a nightly riot destroying property, breaking laws in Portland. If we had a real press corps, you know what they'd ask Bernie Sanders when he goes on this? I mean, not Andrea Mitchell, she's a joke. You know what they would ask? They'd say, do you think that the laws against vandalism should be enforced? Do you think people should be able to destroy public property? You see, if they were willing to at least say, no, we think that you should be able to destroy whatever public property you want. Okay. Well, guess what? That means a whole lot of folks can start painting MAGA signs all over Democrat-run city buildings. Can't do anything about it. We know they, of course, would never allow that. You know, they'd call out the sniper teams against people with MAGA hats on if they were doing this. But sure enough, they continue with their false narratives, just lies. You know, the devil is the Lord of lies. Democrats and the devil are very close together, aren't they? Just constant lying about important things. Not about a crowd size at a rally, not about I'm the greatest or the most amazing at this or that or whatever. It's not bravado they lie about. It's core matters of this country. Does everybody have to obey the law? Or no, if you have a really important Democrat grievance, you get to do whatever you want. Is that the country we live in now? Should that be our expectation? I'd like to know. I think it's only fair that we understand that right now. Bernie Sanders. No, these people, they're not even smart. I don't know what else to say. They're not even good at anything other than being demagogues, other than just being, slimy salesmen for the socialist message of the Democrats that they then pretend isn't socialism. He's talking about authoritarianism. We have Democrats telling you can't eat food in a restaurant unless they tell you that it is substantial enough to order your booze with, right? You can't just sit there and say, I'm going to have some potato chips with my drink. We'll get into this, but is a hot dog a sandwich? I don't know. Does a sandwich is substantial food for the purposes of eating during COVID. Is a hot dog also a sandwich? I'm going to wade into this debate. Are chicken wings substantial enough for somebody to order a drink? We are living in a petty tyranny right now, a real one. And they say that the authoritarianism is Trump trying to stop the destruction of public property, the desecration of statues and war memorials, and to prevent arson of federal buildings. And they say that's the authoritarianism. They hope that you don't recognize, they hope the American people don't wake up and see that the mob is its own kind of authoritarianism. The mob is its own version of total control, right? Controls you. They don't have total control, but they will control you. Whatever the mob decides on any given day. Authoritarian. Notice how Sanders even slipped into sending in federal not troops, law enforcement officers. law enforcement officers, the same laws that give those officers the right to be in these U.S. cities and to enforce laws. What about constitutional rights, folks? What about what about the right of citizens to be secure in their persons and effects? What about the right of citizens to be able to go about their day freely, engage in commerce, all these things? Riots are illegal. Destruction of property, threatening people in a mob, attacking police. These are illegal acts. The Democrats, though, are the party of lawlessness. I am hoping that there is a huge backlash brewing from this. And maybe we don't see it until Election Day. But that's going to require so much discipline. But there's this part of me that would like to think everybody who voted for Trump the last time around knows that he did a good job up until the pandemic. The pandemic has made the country a far less happy, less prosperous place while it's ripping through this whole United States, which is what's going on right now. Regardless of all the lockdowns and all this, the virus is going to hit us very hard. I hope that everybody who voted for Trump before comes out again and sends the single best message possible to all these statists, these liars, these pathetic, whiny, disgusting, pseudo-revolutionary, socialist Democrats. They're all Democrats doing this. And the people that are so vicious all the time to anybody that says something they don't like at their company or that wants people fired, cancel culture, this is all coming from Democrats that pretend that they care so much about racism in America, such a horrible racist society, when the only laws we have that are in fact racially preferential are against white people in the form of affirmative action and against Asians in the form of affirmative action. That's just the fact. I hope and pray that we achieve a measure of justice from the ultimate extended middle finger to the Democrats across this country that they so greatly deserve. Because what they've done to try to tilt this election to their side is make America miserable again. They've hurt the country. They are hurting people. They don't care. They are reckless. They have no principles. The only thing that I can think of that will achieve some measure of justice in all of this is if they have to wake up in November and realize that Trump is going to be their president for 4 more years. That's the only way. And they're not going to stop this agitation, this insanity, but at least there'll be that moment of sweet, sweet justice. And hearing them cry and scream and wail over this, when at the end of the day, we can be very secure in knowing not only did their shenanigans, did their scorched earth tactics fail, but the whole country, including for them, for better or for worse, is going to be a much better place if Donald Trump wins 4 more years.
I don't see this disappearing the way SARS-1 did. The reason I say that is that it is so efficient in its ability to transmit from human to human that I think we ultimately will get control of it. I don't really see us eradicating it. I think with a combination of good public health measures, a degree of global herd immunity, and a good vaccine, which I do hope and feel cautiously optimistic that we will get. I think when you put all 3 of those together, I think we will get very good control of this.
Yeah, there it is. Never going away, folks. That's what he's telling you. It's going to be out there. It's going to continue to be a thing that we have to be at least aware of, concerned about. And now we have set a very dangerous precedent as a country for the effectively unlimited powers of those in charge based upon a public health threat. Because there'll be plenty of public health threats. This is not the last time this will happen. And notice how he mentioned herd immunity there. One of the tactics of the lockdown libs and the propagandists out there has always been the moment you mention herd immunity, they do this thing of how many lives are you willing to lose? Herd immunity, they act like is a massive form of human sacrifice. What they don't understand is the virus is doing what it does, and herd immunity is, as a species, as a human species, our protection against this over time. And this has been around for as long as there have been human beings getting diseases. But to even bring that up, you open yourself up to the attacks of, why don't you care more about grandma and grandpa? This is not going away entirely anytime soon. And even with a vaccine, there'll probably still be outbreaks of it. I think what we're going to find out is that there are versions of this that, and this is a guess, I don't know, but just from what I read of experts who are talking about this, it's probably going to be like seasonal influenza, where you get a vaccine against this perhaps every year, and it's somewhat effective. And then when you add that to antibodies and T-cell immunity, you're pretty much okay. But I don't know why anyone is thinking that this hasn't established an incredibly dangerous precedent for us. They told us what the metrics were for reopening, for example. They said, okay, guys, sorry. New York's the perfect example of this. We can't let you go back to your life until this is where the cases are and this is what the resources are to deal with this. And then after months of misery, we get to that level and they go, yeah, I'm sorry. Still not going to let you have your life back. What's the mechanism we have in response to this? What are we supposed to say? Because remember, these are one-party states, unfortunately. And Democrats, God forbid they put somebody in charge who's not devoted to the practice of abortion always and at every time during a pregnancy in order to give us somebody who also might be better on the economy and law and order, But you can't vote for a Republican. They're anti-choice racists, right? That's all that the Democratic Party has had to do. Convince people of those two things, and you can't have Republicans just do a better job in governance. That doesn't matter to them. And of course, as we know, this is always, I'm stunned somewhat to see, I tweeted out, it was from bucksexton.com, which is a great site where you should all be scoping it out daily. We've got stories posted every day. I got to tell you, when you look at the responses, including from some celebrity blue checks now, when the president does all the retweets, then the celebrities come after me, the actors, the musicians, the people that have like a 5th grade reading level, but because they have a very good looking face or a very pleasant sounding singing voice, we're all supposed to want to hear their idea about how to handle massive economic and epidemiological challenges as if they've read a book in the last 20 years. But anyway, I know T Swift's album came out last night. Oh, T Swift. We could have been something. I didn't listen to it yet. So, producer Mark, do you ever listen to Taylor Swift?
My wife is obsessed with her.
Had a feeling.
Yep.
See, I knew that the answer for Mark was no, but I also know that producer Mark has Mrs. Mark and that all the ladies, especially of that age group, love the T Swift. So it's a true thing. So we have the usual demagoguery from Sanders and others about how there's been a rejection of science here, and that's why Trump is responsible for so many deaths. Play 14.
But we have got to come together to defeat a president who is a pathological liar, whose rejection of science has led to the unnecessary deaths of thousands of people during this terrible pandemic, who is in fact a racist and a sexist and a homophobe and a xenophobe. So our major priority is to defeat Donald Trump, bringing people together. Second of all, we are working hard with some success in electing progressives, strong progressives, to the Congress, to state and local positions all over this country. And thirdly, our movement is going to continue keeping its eye on the prize.
Did Bernie leave anything out there? He's a sexist. He's a homophobe, misogynist, xenophobe, agoraphobe, arachnophobe. Just wondering how many phobes we can all put in there. As a trichodecaphobe. Scared of number 13. Very scared of it. So, yeah, there you have it. Bernie Sanders telling you that Trump has rejected science. Meanwhile, he's got his top science people out there all the time talking about this virus and everything that's going on with it and how we can react to it and where we are right now. Dr. Birx, she of the designer scarf fame, is telling you, look, it's bad right now. You got 3 things going on that are like 3 New Yorks, which I don't think that that's really accurate, but we'll see what the numbers tell us. Play 18.
I mean, we already starting to see some plateauing in these critically 4 states that have really suffered under the last 4 weeks. So Texas, California, Arizona, and Florida, those major metros and throughout their counties. And I just want to make it clear to the American public, what we have right now are essentially 3 New Yorks with these 3 major states. And so we're really having to respond as an American people, and that's why you hear us calling for mass and increased social distancing to really stop the spread of this epidemic.
To stop the spread. I thought it was to bend the curve. Why is it stop the spread? Because people don't have the courage who are in positions of authority to look the American people in the eye and say, we can't stop this thing. That's it. You can hide for 2 weeks and then not hide, and the virus will still be out there. So then what happens is you can hide for 2 months. Oh, no, make it 4. Oh, no, make it 6. Let's make it a year. Rolling lockdowns. Oh, serious lockdown, less serious lockdown. The economic damage from this is going to be catastrophic. You can't feel it yet. You can't see it yet. It is like a cancer within our economy that is metastasizing quietly. There aren't a lot of symptoms. By the time we see what is going on with this, it will be too late. Our economy is going to go into a tailspin if we keep doing this. And I think there are a lot of Democrats who even know that. But as long as it's on Trump's watch, they don't care. In fact, I think it's great. Biden can come in just like Obama with an economy in a cyclical free fall. And no matter what, they'll be better than that when they have to get up for re-election.